Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me. We'll just get started here in just a minute here. Let me go ahead and share my notes. Almost done here. Morning, Spencer. All right. Thank you guys for joining me for today's special webinar on talking about how you're going to upgrade to your tried and true tested classic version Top Producer 8i to our latest and greatest Top Producer X. I'm your host, Dan Salcedo. I'm the training specialist here in the Top Producer Customer Care team. And joining me today is Spencer Powell. He is the Senior Customer Success Representative. I'll go ahead and let Spencer introduce himself a little bit here. Awesome. Thanks, Spencer. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my audio here. I can't hear what you're saying, so I apologize. I'm gonna have to. Oh, looks like Brianna also can't hear you, Spencer. So if you could.
Sorry about that, guys. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. I thought it was me.
Sorry, guys. My apologies. I had the wrong microphone selected, so I guess I'll just let me just restart there for a second now that you guys can actually hear me. So yeah, as I was saying into this little microphone up here that you couldn't hear before, and now I'm talking into this one. But yeah, my name's Spencer. I'm with our customer success team. I take care of a lot of the onboarding and coaching for our customers. Also train staff internally for to do the exact same thing. And I take care of a lot of our weekly webinars for getting started with Top Producer X, follow-up coaching shows, and a bunch of other stuff. And I've been at Top Producer for over 2.5 years now. And yeah, good to be here with you guys today.
Thanks, Spencer. If you guys can do me a favor in chat, can you just verify or confirm that you guys can both hear us, just so we don't start talking. And awesome, Matt. Fausto can't hear us yet. Okay, everyone seems like they can hear us, so I appreciate that. Fausto Valencia, you might have to check your Zoom audio settings. I don't know, Spencer, if you can try to find a link for Zoom audio settings that Fausto might be able to.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Wow, looks like we have a lot of people here. Thank you guys again for joining me. If you guys want, go in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from, and let us know if you get any online leads, whether that's just from your website or like from your franchise, your broker, or maybe even from a lead provider like Realtor.com, Zillow, that kind of stuff. Let us know if you have any online leads, as there is a new feature in Top Producer X that we're going to be talking about here that might help you out with those online leads. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and talk about that in our notes. So as the notes say here, we recently launched an all new automated lead response plan. Now, if you were with us in one of the other shows this week or a couple of weeks since, we've talked about this same plan. What it basically does is it allows you anytime you get an online lead, whether that's from realtor.com, Zillow, or even your own website, every time you get an online lead, it goes into your top producer automatically. It automatically responds to them right away. And you can set it up so that it keeps sending them scheduled emails and text messages along with the reminders that you set for yourself to call them on that first day, maybe a couple times, send them a market snapshot, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to keep automatically scheduling the messages in order to try to get them to respond to you, right? Because that's the biggest challenge with online leads, is getting them to respond to you. So without you having to continue to have to manually send those messages to that online lead, Top Producer X is now able to automatically send those multiple messages over multiple days. And the beauty of it is, as soon as they reply to it, all those next scheduled messages that haven't been sent yet, since they've replied, they'll automatically get removed. So it's not gonna continue to try to harass them and try to get them to respond, because it's already done its job of getting that lead to reply to your messages. So it's a really cool feature. As it says here on the notes, we do have a template that you can use right away. And it's got 8 touch points on that first day. So text, emails, a market snapshot, and phone calls. And it continues with a solid nurture plan to keep them engaged until they're ready to transact, right? So we were really excited about this new feature, and we've got really good positive feedback from customers that have already started using it. So hopefully, if you guys haven't tried it yet, hopefully this webinar is getting you that inspiration to try it out. And I believe Spencer will share a blog post to a little bit more about what this new automated lead response plan is and the benefits for you, if you want to know more about it before you start using it. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we highlight that new automated lead response plan before we move on to the main content of this show. So let me go ahead and just take a look at the chat here. We've got people from Fort Myers, Johnny from Fort Myers, Florida, Suzanne from Clayton, Georgia, Sylvia from Valdosta, Georgia, Suzanne from Northeast Georgia Mountains, Fiola, a fellow Canadian from Ontario, Canada, Fran from Charlotte, North Carolina, Natalie Wood, Vancouver, very local. I'm in Abbotsford, by the way, and Spencer's in downtown Vancouver. So if you need one-on-one, maybe you can hunt him down somewhere in downtown. You'll probably find him at a local bar or restaurant, because he's a mixologist, so he's really good at making drinks.
Exactly. I'm always exploring new bars and restaurants.
For your side business there, Spencer.
I appreciate that.
And then Kathy Smith, we've got from Fair Oaks, California. Oh, and we got more. We got Ralph from Warrenton, Virginia. Isabel from Washington, D.C. Yang Suk from Atlanta. Fausto from West Sacramento. And from San Diego. Awesome. I love San Diego, by the way. I'm Filipino, so there's a lot of Filipinos out there. I love going to San Diego. Anyways, thank you guys. Sorry for that getting a little sidetracked there. I get excited when there's a lot of people and we get to interact with you guys here on the show. Kathy has a question here that says, are you going to send us the recording? Yes, so all our webinars are always recorded. So you will be able to find them from our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/topproducersoftware or youtube.com/tpcampus. Either one works. Spencer will link to those. And we also have it available in our campus website. If you want to see the other webinars that we record, like the Getting Started with TPX or the 4 things you want to know after you set up TPX, those are available in our TP campus. If we have time, I'll show you guys what those pages look like. But yeah, short answer, Kathy, long ways around it is yes, this is recorded, and you will get the link to that, especially if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. So Spencer will link those into the chat. All right, so getting into the meat of the presentation here, what's new in Top Producer X? There's a few, and these are the things that we want to highlight for you guys in Top Producer 8i. The first couple of highlights is the contact record. If you haven't logged into Top Producer X yet, to get in there, it's just crm.topproducer.com, or if you're in your Top Producer 8i, at the very top on the top menu bar that you see where it says home, calendar, contacts, etc., there should be a button that says TPX at the very top there. So that's a way, those are the two ways that you can log into your TPX, and it's the same login credentials as your 8i. And the good news is all your contacts are already there. They share the same database. So if you add a contact in 8i, it'll show it in TPX, and vice versa. If you add it in TPX, it'll show it in 8i. The reason why we do this is because we know that each person's situation is different, and some of the features that you use in 8i may not yet be in TPX, right? So we've taken all of that into consideration. So if you're more comfortable to go at a slower pace, we don't have any plans. I'm going to start this off with, we don't have any plans to get rid of 8i. So you're more than welcome to continue 8i along with your TPX as you slowly make that transition into the new one, right? One of the things that, as you see on the screen here, is the 360 contact view. And let me just get into the actual live demo so that it's easier for you guys to understand what we mean about the new contact record compared to the old 8i version. So let me just X out of that. And let's log into my Top Producer 8i in here. By the way, all the contacts that you see in my account are test contacts. They're not real. So, you know, try not to steal them. Not just kidding. Even if you did, there's, you know, you wouldn't do you any good. No, just kidding. But yeah, so if you go into 8i, there's a button that says TPX. If you just click on it, it takes you to your TPX. And all your contacts are there. So I have 78 contacts in my Top Producer X. And if I'm in my 8i, I'm going to just go through this really quickly, assuming that you guys know how to look up all your contacts in 8i. You can see the total, same total of 78 contacts. So as I said, they share the same database. And when you open up one of those contacts, this is what you guys see as an 8i contact record. You'll see all the different tabs like summary, lead info, etc. You guys know all about that. And then with TPX, right, go into the same contact record. This is what we mean about the 360 contact view. So you've got all these different tabs similar to what you have in 8i, but what's really good with this new contact record is that along with the contact information in here, there's all these different tabs that you have. And this is one of the feedback that we were getting with 8i was that, especially for a new user, maybe it doesn't apply to you guys anymore since you guys have used 8i for years and years. But for new users, they were having trouble kind of navigating around in 8i. And part of that reason is, or at least the suggestions that we were getting was being able to customize the way it looks a little bit so it fits in more with your own workflow, right? So what we've done with the contact record is you can actually click and drag any of these tabs and reorder them to suit your needs. So if you don't like the default tab of the dashboard where it shows you a bit of everything, you can, let's say you want to focus on tasks every time you open a contact record. What you can do is you can go to the tasks tab and then you click on this little gear icon and you can set it as the current default. Set this current tab as the default. So as soon as you click on that and you open any of your contact records, let's just say, yeah, let's just open up the same one. Open up any contact record, you'll notice it'll go to that default tab that you've set up. And you can even take that even further. You can rearrange all of these tabs here so that it matches your order of work, like your workflow. So if you want to go to task first every time that you open a contact, you can rearrange all these tabs here to whatever you want. So if you want to move the task at the top, and then naturally you want to go from top to bottom, let's say after tasks, you want to look at, I don't know, let's say if they have any transactions, right? So you want to make sure you're always taking care of your current clients, right? Because you want to make sure you close those deals and make that commission, right? So maybe that's the next tab you want on your contact record. So this is what we mean about the 360 contact view. It kind of just helps you be a bit more efficient with how you go through that contact record, and it's customizable to you, where in 8i it was a little bit more rigid with the tabs that we had in there. So just one thing I wanted to highlight. Now I know that, you know, there's a lot of things that you will like about 8i and how it's rearranged, but this is just kind of what we're getting as an overall sense from a lot of users over the years and years we've had 8i, that this is one of the important things, that being able to customize the tabs, right? Next thing I want to talk about is the property insights. So this is actually a new feature in Top Producer X that's not in 8i at all. And what property insights allows you to do, if I can just zoom that in, is it allows you, if you are a buyer agent, or at least both buyer and seller, for any of your buyer contacts, you know how you always get like a call from your buyer and say, oh, I want to look at this property and that property. And then they text you like 2 days later saying, hey, I just saw this on realtor.com. I saw on Zillow. Can we look at this property too? And then, let's say a week later, they email you and say, hey, I want to look at this property, right? So in all these different methods of communication, they're sending all of these properties that you want. Multiply that for all the buyers that you handle on a day-to-day basis. It can get overwhelming trying to remember all those properties, right? So what we've built into the new version of Top Producer X, is a centralized list called Property Insights, so that you don't have to sift through all your text messages on your phone. You don't have to go through your spam emails to identify the emails from that particular contact. And you don't have to try to look for that piece of paper that you wrote down those properties when they called you to say, hey, I want to look at these properties. There's a dedicated tab called Property Insights, where you'll see all of those properties that you've added in the list. And what's really cool about it is, because it's connected to your MLS board, it's going to automatically update. So when you add it in and a few days passes by, every day it's being checked. It's being synced with your MLS board, quote unquote sync. It's being synced with your MLS board, so that if the status of any of those properties changes, let's say went from active to sold or active to expired, whatever it may be, you don't have to go into the MLS board and do your own research. You just go to this tab and it's automatically updated, right? It also updates any price changes, if the front photo changes or whatever that may be, right? So it's really cool. And let me show you a live demo of what it looks like for me when I'm looking in a contact record. So this is for a contact that was looking at properties in Bellingham and Vancouver. So we're a border city here in most Canadian cities are. They're near the border of some US state or city. So here in Vancouver area, the closest kind of main city is called Bellingham. And this particular buyer contact is interested in buying either in Vancouver or in Bellingham. So as you can see here, I added this a while ago, probably around August. You can see it's already updated the statuses. One says expired, one says terminated, one says sold. So this is what I mean by automatically updating from the MLS board. You don't have to do any work. It's just updating right away. So it could be a huge list of properties that buyer is interested in. This just kind of gives you a little bit of that extra edge as far as your memory goes, right? And your buyer is going to be super impressed about you with you being able to, right off the top of your head say, oh yeah, that property is expired. Oh yeah, that property is sold. They're going to wonder like, how do you know this, right? And it's all automatic. They don't see that you're using Top Producer X. You have a list here that's centralized, that's being updated automatically by your MLS board. So I really like this property insights feature. It's one of the game changers, I think, in my opinion, from 8i to Top Producer X, because 8i doesn't have this feature. I can see that there's some discussion in the chat, so I really appreciate that. I'm gonna let Spencer answer those questions as we go through, and then at the very end we can kind of have a Q&A session if some of your answers haven't been quite answered yet. But I can take a quick pause here for Spencer. Spencer, is there anything that we want to address on the show other than the chat?
Other than the chat, no, actually, I just want to add on by saying that, property insights is one of my favorite features to show off as well, just because it's so easy to use. It solves, an existing problem that many agents have in a very easy to approach way, because sometimes you just need to quickly reference all those properties you've already talked about, sort of see a pattern in what they might be interested in, how flexible they would be in their criteria, all that kind of stuff, right? And keep track of that with the MLS connectivity. So if you're tracking 4 or 5 different properties for someone, and unfortunately maybe one goes off market, you're at least going to be able to see that right from Property Insights without having to log into your MLS and check that. So that's really cool. You can add your notes right onto the insights, really stay organized, and that's something that was never available in Top Producer 8i. The most you could do is just add a regular note. So Property Insights definitely steps that up a good couple notches and makes that a much better experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't touched on this yet, but Top Producer X was built maybe about around 4 years ago. So it's relatively new compared to 8i. Now 8i is probably about 20 years. Some of you customers might, have already used our previous version 7i from 8i, right? So we're kind of going into that next phase from, it's just like when you went from 7i to 8i, now we're going from 8i to TPX. Before 7i, there was 6i, and then before 6i, it didn't even have a version. It was just called Top Producer. And for any pioneers out there of Top Producer, you might even remember Howard and Friends. So if you're one of those, I really appreciate you guys being here. It means that you've stuck with us throughout all these years, and hopefully you've been finding success as partners with us in your business. Moving right along here, the next few features I want to talk about that's new in Top Producer X that are not in 8i is the ability to track your emails when you send them from Top Producer. And you can now send text messages from your Top Producer. So neither of these two features are not in 8i. So these are, as usual, they are very popular feedback that we got from 8i users that we wanted to make sure we put into the newest, or at least the earliest versions of Top Producer X, and it's in there right now. So when you send an email from Top Producer X, it's going to show you these little picture icons on the right to tell you if they haven't seen it yet, which is this red little eye with a cross across it, a line across it. That means they haven't viewed it yet. Or it could also mean that you sent that email from outside of Top Producer, so we can't track it. Like if you send it from your phone, because it's not from Top Producer, we don't have the little code in there on that email you sent that is able to track it in your Top Producer. So you might see this little red icon. If they replied to you, you'll see this blue inbox that says it went into your inbox, so they replied to you. And if they've seen your email, it's going to show you a green eye. So, there's people out there I've talked to a bunch of times already where they've spent hours, they hired an assistant, or maybe they even hired a graphic designer or a web developer to really create this really nice, attractive email template that they mass email to their Top Producer contacts. And one of the disappointing things that I have to say sometimes with 8i users is, yeah, unfortunately, we don't track if they've opened those emails or not in 8i. So Now I don't have to say that all the time because with Top Producer X, it does track if they've opened it or not, and you'll get that that quick visual return on your investment, that all that resources that you put into those mass emails are paying off because they're actually being opened, right? And if they're not being opened, then you can adjust your emails. So it's a really cool new addition to Top Producer X, and it's one of the selling points of Top Producer X that people like using it for. One of the reasons some people have switched from 8i is just that one, is being able to see if someone's opened their email or not. The next thing I want to talk about is unlimited texting. So with Top Producer X, you can send messages to your clients straight from your top producer. So you might be wondering, why would I want to stop just using my my phone, right? I already send text messages from my phone, right? The thing with Top Producer, being able to send text messages from Top Producer, is that you're not relying on your phone. So let's say you switch from a different phone to another phone, you're not risking the chance of losing those text messages for your business, right? So let's say you went from an iPhone to an Android, two different ecosystems of phones, right? You don't have that worry where you might lose those text messages. And also, for me at least, it's easier to type on a full keyboard, right? Whether that's your laptop or your an actual keyboard with that's plugged into your computer, instead of that tiny little device where you might do a bunch of typos, right? So those are a couple of things why I would switch from my phone messaging to Top Producer messaging, is because it's just a lot more convenient, in my opinion, in the long run, especially if you're making sure you want to track that history on top of all the 360 contact view tabs that you see. So not only can you send them a text about that property, you can switch to their different tab that says email, saying, oh, I sent you an email, this is the subject line, look for that email, right? So it's just easier and faster for you to communicate what you need to communicate, because you have all the other information in the contact record of your top producer. Now, I do have a little bit of disappointing news for our Canadian customers, unfortunate, or any non-US customers that's in this show. It's only available for our US customers at this time. This is due to some legal, marketing, advertising rules that are different with US and other countries like Canada. So yeah, unfortunately right now we are just making this available for US customers, but you never know. We might introduce it to other customers if we can get over those legal hurdles or whatever they may be. So I'm sorry for our Canadians. I'm a Canadian, so I know how disappointing that could be. All right, moving on. The other things that's new in Top Producer X is something called the Smart Contact List, and being able to set up follow-up reminders. Let me do a live demo in here to kind of illustrate this a little bit better than what you see on the slide. So in 8i, we'll take a little detour back to 8i, and we'll go to your contacts and then contact summary. So as you guys are probably familiar with, in the contact summary, if it doesn't slow down on me and time out on me, some of you guys might be aware of, oh, okay, I guess it's playing nicely a little bit with me. Yeah, if you're in your contact summary in your Top Producer 8i, you've got all these different tabs. These are just the last name initial tabs. And then you got your all tab, and then you got a favorites tab. And that's it. Not much else going on in this contact summary other than the list of your contacts, right? With Top Producer X, in your contacts tab, notice it's only one click. You don't have to go, you don't have to go in 8i where you go hover over, you have to remember to go hover over contact and then click some contact summary. So it's slightly faster by just hitting contact and it'll take you there. You'll notice all these different tabs, instead of last name initials, they're a little bit more useful. So we really like the idea of having tabs for all the different statuses for your contacts. If you guys don't know what the contact statuses mean. If I can ask Spencer to post a link to that article that kind of explain each one. It basically just allows you to prioritize who you should talk to next based on how ready they are to go into the market, right? So for future contacts, those are your looky-loos. You probably are gonna have them as a less of a priority, right? So you can silo them into a separate tab so you don't have to pollute the rest of your other contacts that you need to focus on. The ones that you want to focus on are probably the new ones, those ones that you haven't talked to right away. Your active ones, these are your actual clients or your hot leads. And then maybe you're engaged. These are people that you started a conversation with yet, but you don't know yet whether they're hot or cold yet. You're just trying to figure it out. So you're still engaging with them. So these are all the different tabs that we have, a lot more useful than just last name initials, right? And on top of that, you can create your own. So I've created already here a tab for all my buyers. So it's a contact type called buyer, and it's just going to show all my buyers. A tab for all my sellers, right? And if maybe you create a duplicate or you don't need one anymore, you can just simply drag it away like this. You just click and hold on it and just drag it away. It'll ask you, are you sure you want to delete this tab? And you just say hit delete. Very easy. And if you want to add this a tab, there's a little gear icon on the far right. It's a little tiny, but it's just right there on the far right beside add contact. You click on that, you can click on create tab, and you can create a new tab. Let's say you want to keep track of all your sports fans, right? Like let's say basketball fans, right? The NBA season's coming up. I'm a basketball fan. So let's just see if we have any contacts in here for basketball. No, I don't. Never mind. Let's just go with best friends actually instead. So I want to keep track of all my best friends in my system, right? So let's create a tab. Now you have a dedicated tab just for that bucket of contacts. And it could be anything. It could be like your senior community that you want to make sure that you're always on top of, and you're always making sure you're nurturing those relationships, right? So you can create your own tabs, and in any tab that you have, we have this thing called a follow-up reminder. So what the follow-up reminder does is it kind of nags you and say, hey, you haven't talked to this person after a certain number of days. So for this new contacts tab, I have it set to every day so that I want to make sure that I'm trying to talk to them and get a response out of them, so I can figure out whether they're a cold or a hot lead, right? So I can have it set to every day, or I can even have it set to, let's say, I'll give myself 7 days, right? Before I tell myself, hey, you need to try again, right? And if they're overdue, it's just gonna say overdue. And let's say you already talked to one of these people, right? Let's say Spencer. Yeah, I've already talked to Spencer and he says he's not interested, right? So we'll put him on feature, and he said, call him again in 6 months.
Yeah, maybe I'll forget by then.
Right, exactly. Right, you never know, right? People are fickle sometimes. So you put in a note, and you can even like set up a call for yourself, right? So you go task, add task, set up a call, 6 month follow up for cold lead, and 6 months. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere around. I don't want to call them on April Fool's Day, so we'll go Monday, April 3rd. You can even set a time. So like, you don't want to call them like in the middle of the day. You might be working. Usually, if you guys don't already know, the best time to call someone if you're trying to do any cold calling is around the dinner time, because that's when they're out of work already. So they're probably more likely to answer your call. So let's just say 6 o'clock. I'm sure there's other school of thoughts there that counters that suggestion, but that's just one thing I've heard from some people. Around dinner time is the best time to call someone if you want a response from them. Maybe not the best response, but at least you got a response from them. So yeah, let's say 6 months, I save this task, and now I've taken care of that contact in using my follow-up reminder, right? So these follow-up now he's not in there because I've already moved him to engaged. Now he's in engaged, or sorry, he's in future. He's somewhere in there now. There's a bunch of contacts in my future. So that's just one way to make sure that you're always organized with who you should talk to next, is these different tabs that we have and the follow-up reminder. We call this whole thing the smart contact list, where compared to the contact summary page in 8i, right? You can kind of see why we called it a little bit more smarter in that sense. All right, now we're going to talk about things that we upgraded as far as the experience goes from 8i into Top Producer X. So one thing that we wanted to make sure is better in Top Producer X compared to 8i is the managing of your listings and closings. So we call it transactions in Top Producer X. And in 8i, we only had about 4 key dates that we tracked in a listing or closing. That's the listing date, the closing date, the expiration date, and I believe there is the reminder date that we also track. So it's just 4 dates. In Top Producer X, based on the years of feedback we got from you guys, is you wanted to track more dates, like for example, the offer date or offer expiration date, or maybe the inspection date, right? Or even the possession date. So if any of you guys in Vancouver, any realtors here in Vancouver can correct me if I'm wrong, but what my realtor told me was the closing date is always going to be different from the possession date. The possession date is always a date after the closing date because it needs to close that deal on that closing date. So you don't get the keys until they make sure everything is closed. And that's usually the next date, the possession date, right? So yeah, so things like that is why we've added more dates into Top Producer X to kind of bring that level of granularity to your workflow a little bit better with Top Producer X. And what's nice about it too, not only can you use more dates, is when you build out your checklist, right, to make sure you close that deal, right? You put in the date of the inspection, you put in the date where your photographer is going to go take pictures, right? Those dates might depend on your key dates that you put in. So let's say you have a photographer and you set it up, let's say 1 day before your listing date, right? Because you want to put pictures when you put up the listing in your MLS. So you schedule it 1 day before your listing date. Let's say something happens and you have to reschedule that listing date, right? Maybe the seller isn't ready yet, right? They say, oh, can we delay this for another couple of weeks? Once you change any of these key transaction dates, any task that is dependent on any of these key dates, it will prompt you to say, hey, do you want to change any task that's relying on this date? So if it's 2 weeks delay on that listing date and your photographer is supposed to come in the day before, let's say the listing date is tomorrow and the photographer is coming in today on the 21st of September. If you move it 2 weeks later in the calendar, that photographer date will also be moved along with that listing date that it's relying on. So that's what we mean here with dynamic workflows. It's going to automatically change on all these different key dates. And because we have more of it, it's just more useful compared to the one in 8i. We even have a testimonial here from a closing coordinator. And usually a real estate office can afford a closing coordinator. They probably deal with a lot of closings, right? So Ali Pole here has a lot of experience with managing transactions, and she really likes the way that it's laid out in Top Producer X. She says the task plans are a lot simpler in Top Producer X. It started with one of the available templates and then changed it to match my process. Moving on, the next things that we want to talk about as far as upgrades or improvements from 8i to Top Producer X is email deliverability and the contact and calendar sync. What we mean by email deliverability is when you send out an email from Top Producer X, the way Top Producer X is built differently. When it sends out that email, it's not sending it from a central top producer email server like 8i. That's how emails are sent out from 8i. It's not actually sent to your actual email account that you put into 8i. It kind of spoofs that email address and masks it, so it looks like it's coming from your Gmail account or your Outlook account or your iCloud account, but it's not actually sending it from there. It's actually sending it from a queued list, a central top producer email server, and it sends it out from that queue, from top of the queue to the bottom of that queue. With Top Producer X, what we've done with it is it's actually connected to your real account. So when you send out an email from Top Producer X, it's not sending it through a top producer email server. It's connected to your specific account and it's sending it through that account. So when you connect, for example, your Gmail account, it's going to send it through your Gmail. When you send it from your Outlook account, it's going to connect it to your Outlook account. And you can even see that working because let's say you send out an email from Top Producer X. You can even see the sent item in your Outlook. For example, if you use Outlook, that same email will be in your sent items folder in Outlook, even though you sent it from Top Producer. That's because we're sending those emails directly from your email account. And why we would want to do that, it's for email reliability or deliverability. So when you send out that email, the most important thing is to make sure that they actually receive it and that we minimize the chance of it going into their spam or their junk folder, right? Unfortunately, with 8i, because it's sent through the same central email server, your emails are being lumped together with other top producer users, and some top producer users unfortunately have used the 8i email service to kind of send out too many mass emails. So it affects the reputation of everybody sending from Top Producer 8i. And some of you have probably encountered that where when you send out an email from 8i, it's going into someone's spam folder or being blocked completely. So that was one of the major pain points with 8i when it comes to sending emails that we wanted to make sure is not happening anymore with Top Producer X. So it's less likely to go into the spam folder and junk folder because you're not being affected by other top producer users who are maybe more spammy when they send out their emails compared to you. So yeah, that's I really like the email deliverability. If anything else, if email is really important to you, that's one big reason why you would want to switch at least your email sending to Top Producer X compared to 8i. It's just more reliable when you're sending it out. And the other thing is that we want to talk about here is the contact and calendar sync. So with 8i, right now, there is no contact and calendar sync anymore because it's too old. A lot of the companies that we connect with, like Google, Microsoft, Apple, they have upgraded their security policies. So we can't even sync contacts and calendar anymore in 8i. So if you want to sync your phone contacts, your phone appointments with your top producer, you can do that with Top Producer X. And the easier it is for you to be able to make that transition into Top Producer X, the better, right? So if you're not very tech savvy and you just want to add a contact in your top producer and you don't have time to try to figure it out how to do it in your top producer, you already know how to do it on your phone. So if you have the contact sync set up with your account, let's say you have an iCloud account through your iPhone, once you add that contact on your iPhone, because it's syncing to your iCloud account, that same contact is going to be added into your top producer. Same thing with appointments, for example. So let's say you need to add an appointment or reschedule it, or maybe it got canceled and you need to delete it. Anytime you need to do any changes like that, it will sync it both ways. It's a sync. It's a two-way sync. So that's what's really cool with the contact and calendar sync. That's better than 8i because 8i doesn't even work anymore. Now we'll get to the tough conversation about, hey, I use letter templates in my 8i. I use labels in my 8i. I use the income and expense tracker in 8i, and it's not in Top Producer X. We know that there will be use cases or features that are not in Top Producer X. That is very important to you in order for you to run your business. So it is still relatively new with Top Producer X. And what we've done with this situation is anytime there is a feature that you don't see in Top Producer X that you want us to make sure we consider adding in the future, we have a new feedback system called Feedback, or the vendor that we use is called Pendo. So you might hear that from time to time from us. But in your Top Producer X, let me just show you a little live demo. There's a feedback button on the bottom left corner. So let's say you want to be able to print labels or something like that. If you click on that feedback button, it'll take you to this feedback portal called Pendo. And this is where you can search for other people's suggestions. So let's say labels, right? I'm just going to put label. Printing labels. So yeah, all these different suggestions. And if you like any of these, let's see here. I'm just going to show one of these examples that's not in Top Producer X, like being able to export contacts. You can still do it in 8i, right? So you're not losing any workflow. But in TPX, we don't have an option yet to export contacts. But let's say that's something that you want to be able to do in TPX, so you don't have to go back into 8i. All you have to do is hit the little thumbs up, and your name is now added to that list of that feature that you want. So let's see how many people there are requesting for this feature. 167 of users. So this will probably get more attention from our product team because there's a lot more people liking it, right? So we've built this new feedback system to make it easier for you guys to communicate and not cut out basically the middleman, the customer care rep. So you can put it into your own words, tell the developer, say, hey, I want to be able to export contacts. Tell our the people that make the decisions to say, hey, I want to be able to export contacts. You can do it directly from this feedback section. We're really about making sure that our new version is built for you guys, basically built by you guys because of this feedback section. So I encourage you guys to give us your honest to God feedback, put it into that feedback section because we want you guys to be happy with our system for years and years to come, as you've already experienced that, hopefully. Now, we'll go through some frequently asked questions, and then I'll have one last slide here before we go through some final Q&A. First question is there a cost to upgrade to Top Producer X? The answer is no. There is no extra cost. The same CRM subscription price that you're paying for with your 8i. Our leaders have decided that we're not going to make people have to pay extra for the new version. You get both versions at for the same cost of your subscription. Do I have to stop using 8i? No, you don't. You can continue to happily use 8i, especially for those features that are not in TPX, at least not yet, like printing labels and whatever it may be, right? Just keep in mind that because 8i is getting older and older, as the months come and the years come, certain features in 8i may stop working as we intended them to, because maybe the code is just getting updated, or the browser that you're using, like Chrome, Safari, Firefox, this is not letting you use it. So I just want to make sure I'm fully transparent about that, although we want to keep 8i going as long as possible, at least for the foreseeable future, certain things might stop working just because we have no choice. We couldn't get it working anymore. One big example of that is the 8i inbox. So I know some of you have already known about that 8i inbox being discontinued, but that's just one example where we can't continue to make that function work in 8i. So you would have to try to work with a different or an alternative solution in Top Producer X for that particular workflow. The last frequently asked question is what's not in Top Producer X that's in 8i. would be really nice, right? But to know if we can get a full list, but unfortunately, I don't have a comprehensive list for you guys because we would probably be here all day. Basically, some examples are like the income and expense tracker, any of the templates that you have to print out, like letters, labels, envelopes, postcards. So those things are not in Top Producer X. But yeah, anytime you have something that you don't know if it's in the new version or not, just hit the chat button on the bottom right corner and we can give you a straight answer right away and say, hey, yeah, no, that one's not there. Oh yes, that one's there. Or it's sort of like this one, check it out, try this one. So we definitely want to make sure we are basically your consultant when you hit that chat button on your Top Producer, so we can address your specific features that you want to use. And before we go through Q&A, my last slide here is just talking about our campus website and how you guys can reach out to us. So if you don't already know, anytime you want to look for step-by-step instructions, or even some of them have step-by-step videos included in those articles, check topproducer.com/campus. And if you're still stuck, even after watching the video, watching this webinar, reading the articles, and you're still stuck, just hit the chat button on the bottom right corner and one of us will be happy to help you. We're open Monday to Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. So we would love to help you out with your specific needs if the campus website is not giving you the answer that you were looking for. Just hit that chat button. If you don't need an immediate response, by the way, our chat support is really awesome. Our average initial response time is less than a minute. So compared to what we had with the phones, where sometimes some people were waiting for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 2 hours, it was kind of a nightmare. But with the chat now, we can at least answer those really simple questions through chat within a minute. And then if it's one of those crazy situations where we just can't figure it out on chat, we will still provide phone support. So it's not an initial phone support, but at least if it gets to that point where it's just not getting resolved on chat, we will escalate it if we need to and give you a phone call. If you don't need a quick response and you just, let's say you just want a copy of your invoice or something like that and you don't need it right away, you can just email support@topproducer.com and we'll email you. Usually it's 1 to 2 business days, maybe a little bit longer if it's the weekend or something like that. But usually it's 1 to 2 business days. And yeah, that's pretty much it for our support options here. Of course, this webinar is one of the ones that we also highlight. So if you guys enjoyed this webinar, let me know in the chat. Let me know if I did a bad job or a good job. Either way, I love feedback. But if you guys do want to sign up for other webinars, if you go on our campus website, on the top right corner, there's a dedicated section for webinar schedule. So if you wanted to see previously recorded version of, setting up your TPX, it's just right there where it says getting started. Or if you want to go through more of a Q&A kind of style of webinar, there's that after setting up. We've recorded those as well. And if you want to go through any live sessions, just select webinar sign up. And we've got a bunch here that we do every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are the regular ones that we do. And this particular one that I do about upgrading from 8i to TPX, we do it monthly so that we can, gather a bunch of you guys and kind of go through it all together and get all these questions up front now so we can address them as honestly and as completely as possible. And then, sometimes we'll have some not even Top Producer related, but just like real estate coaching related. For example, we have one coming up next week, 3 tips to improve your real estate lead conversion, right? Of course, we'll probably plug our product too, but I'm sure you'll get some free tips in there about how you can, improve your lead conversion. But yeah, if you like these webinars, definitely check out our webinar calendar. And hopefully we'll see you guys in one of those ones. But yeah, go. Spencer, do you have any questions queued up for me that I can hopefully answer live?
Absolutely. So I have some stuff noted down here. And first off, thank you very much, guys, for all your questions today. This has been excellent. I feel like there's a lot of great information being exchanged, from us to you and to from you to us, I should say, in terms of feedback as well. So much appreciated. I really just appreciate more than anything it's staying super respectful. And like I said, we're just trying to work together here, right? So really, really appreciate that, guys. So we've had some amazing questions. I have some noted down here. Let me just take a look really quick. So I'll run through a couple just to reiterate, Dan, and then I'll also pass some on to you as well. So just to run through a couple quick ones, we had one earlier in the show asking, can you add more than one MLS number at a time to Property Insights? As mentioned in the chat, only one property at a time currently in Property Insights. We have heard that request before, so we definitely have an entry in our Pendo system for entering multiple MLS ID numbers at the same time. So we'll see if we can maybe look into that in the future. We have another one. Let's see. Customizable key dates. Someone was asking about changing the key dates for transactions. So I'm happy to tell you that's also in planned, I should say. So that's something that we are going to implement in the future. I can't really say like any sort of ETA at this time, but it is definitely something that we are going to do is customizable key dates. So beyond just the ones you see here, it will be possible in the future to remove these or change them, make your own, and then have your task plans be linking up to those key dates instead. So really good question. Let's see. Big one here actually. Actually, we heard this from a couple of people in the chat asking, I don't see a friends or family tab in the contact like an ADI. Where can you connect contacts together? So as I mentioned in the chat, guys, thankfully, very, very soon, there is a brand new relationships feature coming. So Dan and I have personally helped out with this, not in programming, of course, but in terms of like testing it and giving our feedback and really doing our utmost to advocate for you guys to make sure that the feature gets implemented in the best way possible. I can tell you even just recently, I had a bit of a back and forth with some of our development team members, and I really did my best to make sure that, like I said, it's going to be implemented in a way that's usable, that doesn't cause a mess in your database, and really just makes it a very fluid experience. So guys, just a bit longer on relationships. It's currently being tested right now as we speak, which means it's essentially almost ready. So very, very happy to let you guys know that. Another one. Oh yeah, sorry, Dan.
Let me just give you guys a sneak preview. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I like breaking the rules sometimes because I'm a very customer advocate kind of type of person. Mm-hmm. So let me see if I can show you guys a quick preview of what this will look like.
So Dan, just to let you know as well, because I don't think I've told even you yet, but two of the biggest changes I recently advocated for relationships is one, default to spouse. So that means now when you go to add a relationship contact, it's going to automatically default to the spouse. You can still change it, but 99% of the time people are adding a spouse, right? So it's going to default to spouse just for that first choice there. And another thing is when you're adding a relationship contact, it's actually going to default to non-client. So it's not going to clutter up your database. You're not going to end up with a bunch of new leads or pretend new leads, and you're not going to actually start marketing to someone's 15-year-old son or daughter or whatever by mistake. It's actually going to add them as a non-client by the default. They stay out of the way of your sales pipeline, and that's going to ensure that you're only focusing on the primary contact for that transaction or for the marketing purposes or that kind of thing. You can, of course, change it anytime you want to, but it's just going to default to non-client. So I was really happy to push for that change as well before we launch it.
Yeah, so what's different with the ADI version where it says family and friends, the contact that you add as a family or a friend in this new relationships tab is going to create a separate contact record for you, instead of only living inside that contact record where sometimes you can't find them when you're just looking for your contacts, right? If you guys know and use the 8i version. You guys know what I mean about that and how difficult it can be to find these family and friends. So with this new one, they're being created as their own contact record, so you can easily find them. And you can create the link between two contact records, and you can break the link between the contact records. So like if it's like a spouse or something like that, and they become an ex-spouse, you can mark it to them separately, and it makes just that process a lot more smoother when you have to break the relationship in your database. So it's really cool. Hopefully you guys are finding that exciting. I know I was. I am. What else do we got for questions here, Spencer?
Just one sec here. Sorry. Let's see. So another one is about 8i listings and closings. So people are asking, my 8i listings and closings are not showing an X. I only see a button for import 8i closings. What about listings? If they are import in X, are they still available in 8i? And so the answer I had previously in the chat was that just a heads up, guys, that import 8i closings button, it's only going to import your close paid or close paid transferred closings from TP8i. The reason for that is because those active listings that you have in 8i, they're still dynamic, right? Things are still moving. It's an active transaction, right? It would be very difficult to import something like that because the next day something could have changed already, right? And they don't talk to each other directly. So the idea is you'd want to work on completing all your outstanding listings and transactions in 8i, get them all to close paid or close paid transferred, and then import. And then continue or I should say start any new transaction management within TPX. So I hope that makes sense, guys. But if you need any more help with that, just feel free to reach out through the live chat within Top Producer, and then one of our reps can help you out.
Yeah, and just to add to that, again, we want to make sure we try to make this transition for you guys as smooth as possible. And that's one of the considerations here, why we're only importing closed transactions from your 8i to TPX, because we don't really want you to have to relearn a new system while you're trying to just make sure you close that deal, right? So if it's an active or pending listing, we'd rather you to be able to use what you already know and are familiar with in 8i to close it. And then for your new ones, do it in Top Producer X where there's, you're not in the middle of something, right? So yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons why we want to make sure we only import the closed ones. Those ones in 8i, just finish them up in 8i. Once you hit close, then you can hit the import button here. You can use this as many times as you want so that every time you close the deal in 8i, it'll bring it over. Now, moving forward, you do want to put your new listings in TPX. That way you don't have to manage two versions for all your listings, right? So slowly and surely, once you've got everything closed in 8i, just start adding your new ones into Top Producer X. We are at 3 minutes after our scheduled time. We are more than happy to keep answering these questions, but I want to make sure I wrap it up for those that do have to go. Thank you guys so much for joining us for today's webinar. Hopefully you guys have found this useful. It is recorded, so if you have to go, but you want to see all the answers to the questions that we're going through right now, you can definitely watch it on our recorded version on our YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you guys so much. For those that you have to go, you guys can go ahead and head on to your next important appointment. Otherwise, let's just continue with the questions and answers here.
And actually, Dan, we had one from earlier that I just remembered. This one was interesting, especially someone was asking about in TP8i, they had their prospects list, on the homepage under My Business.
Yeah.
And they said, where can I find that in TPX? What I was saying to them then is that, well, we'll try to get you to show this live, but in the meantime, I kind of said, the closest equivalent that I can think of to this is custom contact lists and follow-up reminders. So because I know with the prospect list, it had been a while since I've seen that feature. So I actually had to look it up on Top Producer Campus to remind myself. But from what I can tell, it's similar to what you can do with follow-up reminders.
Yeah, so a couple of answers to that. Your existing prospect list in 8i it will not be in Top Producer X. Unfortunately, there's no prospect list in Top Producer X, but the same feature, the same functionality is in Top Producer X. And that's through the custom tabs that we have here. So this is basically creating your own prospect list. So the one we have is just one list, right, called prospect list, but you can create multiple prospect lists. Like I said earlier, you can have one for all your senior community. You can have one just for your buyers. You can have one just for your sellers. You can even have multiple contact types. So if you want to see all your, let's see here, let's go with all my buyers, and also they also need to be, let's say, my friends, right? So it's just an easy group that I know I have rapport with already. They're all my friends that are looking for homes, right? So I can just create a label, a tab, my own prospect list, and call it friends that are interested in buying. But that's a super long tab. Probably may want to rename that, but just to kind of make a point there, you can create your own label for your custom prospect list, multiple contact types if you want, and then just say create tab, and then there it is. And you can rearrange it if you want. Let's say you want it at the very far left so you don't forget about it. Instead of being lost on the far right, you can move it over.
And yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Spencer.
Oh, sorry, Dan. I was just going to say, looking at the settings for this prospect list, there's basic, advanced, and custom. Basic has everything from new leads or contacts that have never been contacted. So that would basically be your new tab in Top Producer X. You could go ahead and set a follow-up reminder there. So for example, Dan could set that to let's say 1 day or something if he really wanted to make sure that he held himself accountable to those new leads. Contacts or leads that have viewed a market snapshot in the past week. So there's nothing directly like that, but the follow-up coach, I believe it should let you know if someone's opened the market snapshot. So as far as I remember.
Yeah, so the follow-up coach is the same one as in 8i. So it gives you 5 people that you can reach out to, or maybe even just to look at their contact record and update it just in case, for example, this one 4 days ago, let's say, oh no, this one I've already talked to, right? I can just say, yeah, no, they are closed. It's already a closed deal. It just kind of gives you a reminder and make sure that no one falls through the cracks in your database, right? So you can mark that done, and we'll just wrap that up.
And actually, sorry, Dan.
We got that completed for my follow-up coach.
And actually, sorry, Dan, and just to correct myself, actually, now that I think about it, I guess the follow coach probably doesn't tell you if someone viewed a market snapshot, but it will tell you if you sent them one and they haven't opened it yet in the last few days. And then if someone does view it and inquire through there, you'll of course get emails about that, right? And then another thing for that prospect list is, engage leads that have not been contacted for over a week. So once again, Dan could go to his engage tab and he could set a 7-day reminder on that one. And so what we're kind of doing here is almost emulating what that prospect list does. Contacts that have not been contacted for over 2 months. I mean, it depends which ones. I would say maybe your future contacts would only go that long usually, right? So you could go to his future tab and set that to 60 days or 90 days or something like that, right? Yeah. And then even if we're talking about custom prospect lists, same kind of thing. You can select what contact status, what the time frame is, that kind of thing. So really, follow-up reminders are a great replacement for this. And to be honest, at the end of the day, it's going to allow you to be to customize it way more than Top Producer 8i. So I'm glad that we could go over that, because that just highlights just how powerful, simple but powerful contact types and custom tabs are to really customize your sales pipeline.
Yeah, and because Top Producer X is built on a more modern platform, this is just kind of scratching the surface, really, as far as customization goes. We have a lot more planned, making sure that your top producers are a lot more useful. Where in 8i, we kind of just hit that limit with the way it was programmed. It's kind of long in the teeth, is how they would say it sometimes, right? So we're kind of limited in what we can upgrade into 8i, unfortunately. So with the new one, we're gonna add in a lot more customization in there as we build it for you guys. Any more questions we want to address on live show?
So Dan, Matt in the chat here is asking if when he imports his 8i closings, if it brings over the tasks and emails from past closings. I think it's only the notes, right?
So let's try it. So we hit import 8i closing. It's going to say their notes will be imported. Associate tasks will be excluded, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still process them in your 8i though. So it's not like you're gonna miss out on anything that you need to do. Yeah, it's more of a historical kind of data. It's not going to be deleted in your 8i. It's still going to be in there.
And then in terms of emails, how the difference, Matt, is that if you were sending emails from Top Producer 8i for that closing, those would have come from technically, you know, our servers, right, from Top Producer 8i. So the difference in TPX is that you have your own integrated email account. And so any emails that you see on TPX are actually coming from your Gmail account or your Outlook account or your Yahoo account or whatever you use. So unfortunately, those past 8i emails, you won't see in X. I'd recommend that if you have something really, really vital from an email from a past 8i transaction, you might want to just copy and paste that email content at least into like the notes section for that transaction. If it's something really vital that you need, you know, maybe for legal reasons or something like that, that you need to be able to access fast. But then going forward, it's just going to be a much better experience because those emails coming from your email account are going to show up in the contact record. So whether you're in Top Producer X at the time or whether you're quickly sending that from your smartphone when you're on the go, it's all going to show up in the email history in Top Producer X. Also, Matt was asking, do the templates from 8i transfer over? So this was sort of mentioned earlier in terms of task plans. So sort of same story here, Matt, is that templates and task plans unfortunately don't transfer over from 8i to X automatically. If you have some templates or plans that are really vital to you, you know, they could definitely be manually sort of, you know, copy and pasted over. But if you guys need some help with that, I would say best to reach out to our live chat first, see what the options are. We could, you know, kind of explore that with you perhaps. Yeah,
and just to add to that, about templates from your 8i not being able to transfer over into TPX, some people have seen it as more of an opportunity. They're able to kind of do some self-reflection and say, hey, maybe I need to refresh this email that I sent, I created like 5 years ago, right? We got, you know, the new generation now of buyers, right? So maybe I need to update some of the language that I use in my marketing, right? And you can create texting templates too, not just email templates. You can create texting templates so you don't have to keep, you know, typing the same text message over and over manually. You can create your own in here. I have a 10-year follow-up plan for past clients. Yeah, no, I that's one of the ones that's tough, right, Matt? That where you have a 10-year action plan in your 8i, where now you have to go through the whole thing, and it might be like 20 different templates that you have to recreate now, right? Times that by how many action plans that you have. So I totally understand. I would say some people are frustrated about that. I totally understand that because that's a lot of work, right? So in the chat, we can go through that to see how we can kind of make that a little bit easier as much as possible. But if you just kind of want to have someone help you do it for you, we do have a paid option that, you know, might be worth it for you if you don't want to, if you think it's worth it. You know, it's not totally forced on you guys, but if it's something that you guys might be interested in, we do have what we call paid onboarding, where this is mostly primarily catered to our new customers, where they need a little bit of help with setting up their Top Producer X. But since you guys are sort of new because you're going from 8i to Top Producer X, this might be something of value to you if you guys agree. If you pay for like the premium or the concierge options here, part of that is we'll be able to help you create those 10-year action plans that maybe you have in 8i. We can help
Or
you
Dan,
create those task plans. Yeah.
Dan, I guess safer to say just the concierge one for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it just depends. So that's something that we would love to kind of have a discussion with you. So if this is something that is interest of you where you want us to just do it for you, and you'll just pay us whatever the fee is for that concierge package, for example, let us know in the chat, and then we can kind of discuss that a little bit further to make sure that is something that might fit your needs. Otherwise, we can give you obviously free tips and tricks on how to recreate those task plans and templates in your new Top Producer X. Just hit the chat button and we can kind of walk you through that, give you some articles, give you some videos that you can watch, and all sorts of stuff on that. So hopefully that will make it a little bit less of a tough challenge. I know it still probably will be, but we have some options for you.
And I have also kind of another approach to this as well, just a recommendation or sort of a thought. One thing to keep in mind with the tasks in Top Producer is that they show up on either platform. So the task plans themselves that you have in your 8i, those are obviously exclusive to your Top Producer 8i. However, once you apply them to a contact, you can actually see those calls, to-dos, and stuff like that in Top Producer X because they're just sort of general tasks. So just a thought, what you could do is you could start to make a 10-year plan that just even does the email content. You could not worry, you don't have to worry too much about the calls or to-dos. And then that way that's a lot less work. You would just recreate your templates, copy and paste them over, and then have a 10-year plan that maybe has 4 emails a year. So that's not a whole lot, but then your 8i would still have you covered for the call and to do reminders. So you could approach it that way. You could say, I'm going to focus on just getting the emails into X and use it just for that, while your plan in 8i will just still keep going in the background and reminding you of those calls and to-dos. So just an idea. That's another way that you could kind of take the load off and not be overwhelmed by having to recreate the whole thing. You could just do the emails first, worry about the rest later.
I love it. Yeah, no, this is why we love doing what we do. We try to figure out a solution for you guys. Definitely take advantage of the support that we provide. It's free, right? And it's part of what you pay for. Some CRMs don't even give you that kind of advice. So hopefully you guys take advantage of our support. We will try our best for you guys to figure out a solution if we can. Any other final questions before we wrap it up?
I think that's about all I had noted down. Just doing one last quick check here. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's just about all. But guys, yeah, just a reminder, if you have any questions after the show today, please do reach out to our customer care team through the live chat. As you can see on Dan's screen there, it's just in the bottom right corner, that little kind of chat bubble thing. And that is available across all Top Producer products. So whether you're in Top Producer X, Top Producer 8i, Top Producer website, or even 5 Street, you can use this exact same chat. And guys, if for whatever reason you can't log in at the time, maybe you're on the go, or maybe you've unfortunately lost access to your account temporarily, you forgot your password or something, you can always go to our support site as well at topproducer.com/campus, and you can use the live chat there without even being signed in. So we'll of course have to go through a couple more steps just to really confirm your identity and your account and that kind of thing. But you can still access it through there. So you just type in your name and email and stuff like that, and it will help you out regardless. Yeah. So guys, I believe that's all we have time for today, but please do register for any other webinars that are coming up that you're interested in. Dan can just show you the webinar schedule here one last time. We have some other great shows coming up. So tomorrow, feel free to join us for 4 things you want to know after you set up TPX. I'll walk you through some really good coaching points and some of the great features of Top Producer X, and show you some day-to-day case scenarios, and try my best to relate as much as possible to what you guys may be dealing with, and show you how to solve for that with some of the new features. And then it looks like on Friday, we have Simplify Lead Management and Response with 5 Street. That's a great one for any teams or brokerages that are really struggling with the influx of leads and making sure that leads are getting followed up with in a timely manner, and that all the agents have a kind of even workload and that kind of thing. 5 Street can really help you with that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys joining for today. We got some comments from Fran. Thanks, guys. Great session. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody that's on the chat asking questions and giving us really valuable feedback. So I really appreciate that. But we are going to let you guys get on with your day. Thank you guys for joining us an extra 20 minutes here. But if we missed your question, I apologize. But yeah, definitely just email it to support@topproducer.com and we'll endeavor to answer those right away. Otherwise, I'm your host, Dan Salcedo. Joining me today is Spencer Powell. Any final goodbyes, Spencer?
Yeah, no, thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. This has been a great session. We're just happy to help in any way that we can to make things a little bit clearer, to give you guys some alternatives, but also show you just the evolution of Top Producer CRM. It's one of those things, as time changed, not everything stays the same. But as long as we can work on things and embrace it together and really go into the next few years with this new technology, and take as much feedback from you guys as possible to continue improving the product, I think we're all going to have a good time. So just appreciate you guys being here today.
Thank you guys for your loyal support, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next time. But we'll let you guys go. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Thanks again.